We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, I'm going to be talking about why Rolex watches are going to be going down in price very soon. Now, of course, I'm talking about the pre-owned Rolex watch market and not necessarily the retail price because, of course, the retail prices are set by the brands, but what the watches actually trade for out there in the world is really a whole different set of numbers, and that's where I specialize and focus on with DelReyWatch.com, where, to give a fair point, we've seen a lot of indicators come through our door here at DelReyWatch.com to really lead me to believe that the Rolex numbers are going to be going down very soon. I also would like to say that when we're talking about Rolex watches and the Rolex market trading pre-owned or secondary market, I'm really talking about the casual purchasers. I think that us on the internet talking, watch geeks, savants, collectors, whatever you'd like to call it, might not necessarily be indicative of the watch market as a whole. And when we talk about watches, we need to consider the entire market, which includes casual purchasers and the people that purchase these watches to be more luxury goods or kind of, luxury purchases rather than hobbies, which I think it's fair to say if you're watching this, chances are it really is a hobby, watches and watch collecting in general. So I want to give that little disclaimer as well. So why do I think the Rolex prices are going to be going down in the secondhand market? First, I see so many Rolex watches, a lot of them unworn, but also pre-owned modern Rolex watches on the shelves of other dealers. Now, these are other dealers that we do business with and other dealers that we don't do business with. You go to any of the jewelry districts across the United States and you see stockpiles of these watches. Now, there are some dealers out there that are a little bit more sophisticated and they do put great inventory management and controls into the watches that they stock. But generally speaking, a lot of jewelry district traders just buy whatever comes to the door if there's some margin on it. And Rolex has had such a great history and a trend of uptick and gains on the value of the watch that I think many dealers have overstocked those watches. But at some point, they do need to sell them. They do need to turn a profit or at least get their money back, because I'll tell you, you'll be very hard-pressed to find any watch dealers in jewelry districts that are okay with taking a loss, even if it's for $1. And that's just something that I think is learned and passed along in kind of the mantra and the mentality of jewelry district traders. And so when you consider that and you pair that with the overall markets in the world are not doing too well. Of course, there's this whole thing about this virus that's going around, but in addition, the markets seem to be correcting in the US, and that trickles out into other parts of the world. When you look at the markets in parts of Asia and China, and of course with the rioting and things that were happening in Hong Kong, you see that whole Asian market take a real big steep dive in terms of watch purchasers, right? You have a lot of brands that are starting to notice. When I go to these events, just was at an event recently for Zenith, and many people in the industry from brands were talking about how Hong Kong and China and everything that's going on in that part of the world is really starting to hurt their numbers. And when you look at investor relations documents coming from brands like Richemont, Kering, Swatch Group, they all mention that numbers are going down in that part of the world, and they can move the numbers around in any which way that they want, but that really does hurt the market overall. And so putting that into perspective in the United States market, of course, we're having a little bit of correction at the time of shooting this video, but also when people are investing, they're investing really in a world, right? It's a global marketplace today, so there are less people that really are willing to put money into luxury goods, because previously they were making a ton of money by, the gains and the capital gains and making money from stocks and other forms of markets. But now if they're taking money out of that, they're going to be a little bit more conservative in their spending, and that follows into the luxury spending. And so when you don't treat watches as a hobby and it's much more of a luxury purchase, something as an alternative to a bag or a purse or shoes or something like that, these things are less needed, and you're just not spending in an economy or a status of an economy like this in a pullback. You're not spending on these types of goods. So as hobbyists and things like that, sure, there might still be spending, but we have to consider that Rolex is one of the largest and most popular luxury goods names. So not everybody, in fact, most Rolex buyers are not enthusiasts, just someone that likes Rolex or the brand or the watches in general. And so when that trickles down, you're going to see that less people are going to be wanting to pay over retail, right? Enthusiasts are generally gravitating towards other brands where there's a lot better value. You see it in the countless YouTube videos on the internet. Best value watches, best value in this movement, best value in that movement. Girard-Perregaux, Ulysse Nardin, all these brands. You see the Journes really coming to the forefront, the high-end independents capturing, kind of the minds of the hardcore enthusiasts in that price segment. You see people buying a Journe instead of a Rolex Daytona, and you're just going to see that less people are buying the Rolexes, so the prices are going to have to go down. And when you pair that with the traders that are in the jewelry districts that are sitting on just stockpiles of these watches, they're going to have to sell them a lot lower unless they want to hold on to them for a long time. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these kind of get dumped on the market at more competitive prices. And when you look at places like Chrono24, they have, just type in the Rolex Submariner ceramic date version. You can see that there's been a pullback even in the last few months at the prices. I think maybe 6 months ago, you'd have to pay $10,500 in papers. There's some examples on there for $9,700 currently. So that's a considerable difference that we need to look at. And when we pair that also with the experience here at DelReyWatch.com, we're seeing a lot of people trying to sell their stainless steel Rolex sports models. More people are calling us, more people are emailing us, and they want to sell them. They want to get out. And this is not only just the people that have held on to them, right? There's people that were speculating. Maybe they purchased the watch and, they wouldn't have purchased it otherwise, but they knew they could make a little bit money on the back end. It's not only those people, because more people are also calling and emailing us saying, hey, the authorized dealer down the road just got in this watch and I'm so lucky to have received it. What will you guys pay? And that was not that common 6-7 months ago. You'd have them once in a while come in and you say, okay, wow, that's amazing, congratulations. But now it seems like it's every few days someone just got in, a stainless steel Rolex sports model and they're very excited. And, it makes sense because they were incredibly difficult to get and they still are somewhat difficult, but more people are calling us. So set aside the exact difference. It's just that there's more. And when you pair all of these factors together, all these little pieces and bits of evidence, it really makes a compelling argument that the numbers are going to drop in terms of prices on modern stainless steel Rolex models. And so what does all of this mean for us as watch collectors? I think there are a handful of things that this really means for us. Some things that are good, some things that might be potentially bad, but certainly some things we need to look out for. So first, it's really not that bad of a time to buy a stainless steel Rolex sports model if you can get a great deal, usually pre-owned or new, right? I'll say that we're still paying pretty strong. You're still going to go a little bit above retail if you pick one up brand new, but it's not going to be where it was before. So if you're not sure of it, yeah, sure, pick it up, but don't expect to make thousands and thousands of dollars unless, of course, you are picking up a Daytona. On the other side of this, there might be a bottom in the near future. So you might want to wait a little bit until kind of the market bottoms out and people the traders dump all of those watches that they're sitting on onto the market. You might get a little bit better of a price. I'm not saying that you're going to get a brand new Rolex Submariner for half price. I cannot fathom that in my mind. The evidence is really not there to support that. I mean, we're not viewing any type of global absolute crash where that would need to be the case, and there's still great value, and there's always going to be people that are in the top percent of income earners that are still willing to pay for the Rolex. So I don't see that as of yet, but there might be a bottom and it might still have an additional maybe 15% to go down in terms of price. So that's also something to look out for. If the prices keep going down, if it finally hits your target price point to purchase that Rolex Submariner that you'd love to have and wear potentially for the rest of your life, that's something that you can look at. Now, if you do have one of these stainless steel Rolex models that are hot or in demand right now and you are holding on to it for a good time to sell, now might be the time to do so, because if the numbers keep sliding down, you're only going to get less and less every day, and also you're going to be competing against the stockpiles that the jewelry district dealers do have, or other flippers or speculators do have, so it's going to get competitive for you. So if you bought one of these watches and you really didn't intend to keep it long term, now might be a great time to get out. And I can see that because of this, the people that were speculating and flipping and making a few $100s on Rolex sports models might want to get out of it because it's going to be incredibly competitive going into the future. Because go to Chrono 24, look up the hot models. There's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of these floating around, and that's just what's on Chrono 24. Go to the jewelry districts in the main cities in the United States. Go to the New York City Jewelry Diamond District. Go to the Miami Jewelry District, the buildings there. Los Angeles, there's a whole building. You'll see all the stainless steel Rolex sports models. So none of that is new, but the fact that the market's pulling back a little bit, the demand's going a little bit down, maybe Rolex produced a few more models, you're going to see that it's going to be incredibly competitive. So if you are flipping and kind of speculating on these things, it might be the time to get out now while you still can gain some or realize some profit on these watches, and it might be a loss in the future. So let's say that you do like these watches regardless if the prices are going up or going down. I do not think it's a bad time to go to an authorized dealer, show up with your credit card or your wire details, and let them know that you do want one of these models. Now, a Daytona might still be pretty hard today. Going in the future, I don't know that you'd necessarily double your price from retail. That's what you really could do. You could buy it retail for 12 and sell it for 25. I see the prices coming down a little bit, certainly on the Daytona in the future, but all the others presently have gone down a little bit. But show up, say that you run a Rolex Submariner. If you want one brand new and you don't necessarily need to have the best price, I think that the chances are really great of you being able to snag one. I'll give you a story. One of my friends here in a business group, he's a watch collector, but he likes watches of all types and brands and models, and he doesn't really have any great pull with any authorized dealer, but he walked into an authorized dealer about 2 weeks ago, and he told them that he wants a Daytona, he's ready to pay up front, and he's ready to pay with a bank wire, and they sold him a Daytona. Now, he didn't make up some crazy story, he never promised them anything, and he got a Daytona just within the last 2 weeks, and he was incredibly happy to have it. He doesn't plan on selling it or speculating or flipping it or anything like that, but what this shows is that the scenarios where we're hearing people get watches at retail from Rolex ADs seems to be increasing. Time will tell as we see the story unfold. If the markets keep pulling back and there's a downturn even more and there's a larger correction in the US markets and certainly foreign markets as well, I think we can see there be an influx of lower priced Rolex sports models that everyone was speculating on and no one really saw or was able to see these external factors that would cause this, right? I've made videos in the past talking about external factors in markets, in demand, in price increases and price decreases, but you can't really, predict these external factors like, illness or other markets or rioting. It's incredibly difficult to predict that, and even when you're looking at other industries, they can't predict this either. But what we can do is we can look at the evidence that we do have and the evidence that comes in through Del Rey Watch and also act accordingly. So what do you guys think? Are any of you out there speculating on Rolex sports models or other hot Rolex watches? Do you also agree that the prices are going to be going down? Have any of you recently gotten one of these hot watches from your authorized dealer? I would love to hear it. Leave it in the comments below. Please do not forget the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys. You have been chatting with John P. Ciao.